Today's service will help us to identify, consider, and learn about how we might be of assistance to populations in our society who have become marginalized. These populations have no voice. They have been pushed to the margins, out of the mainstream. They have little to no power, status, or significance. In the Bible, in Matthew chapter 25, there is a commonly cited parable which has become known as the "unto the least of these" Bible passage. Here is the passage. A king says to his servants, "I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was homeless, and you gave me a room. I was shivering, and you gave me clothes. I was sick, and you stopped to visit. I was in prison, and you came to me." The servants replied, "What are you talking about? When did we ever see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we ever see you sick or in prison and come to you?" And then the king will say, "I'm telling the solemn truth. Whenever you did one of these things to someone overlooked or ignored, that was me. You did it to me." Now, I view this passage as crucially important and incredibly and sadly relevant. First of all, we have to ask, who are the least of these? Who are these, as this translation from the Message described, who are the overlooked and the ignored? Well, I think that the least of these, the overlooked and the ignored, are many communities of people in our culture. The sick, the homeless, the poor, the ostracized, the lonely, the imprisoned, the disabled, the left out, the different. People in marginalized populations feel less than. They feel less important. They feel secondary. Dr. Nathaniel Granger describes the process of marginalization this way. To marginalize is the process of relegating or confining to a lower or outer limit or edge, as in social standing. Hence, marginalization is the social process of becoming or being made marginal, especially as a group within the larger society. And you know, when we use the word marginal, we mean something that's not important. No, that's just a marginal impact. Those are just marginal results. That's a marginal person. Those are marginal people. They only matter just a little bit. So do we notice marginalized people? How do we treat marginalized communities? Do we serve them? Do we recognize their needs? Do we attempt to help their needs be met? Do we recognize the absence of their power and their voice? Today and for the next 2 weeks, we're going to focus on some of the marginalized groups of people within our society and try to imagine how we could assist them in some way. Is there something we can do to help people move from the edges, from the margins, into the mainstream? When a woman loses her job at a school because her marriage license reveals that she is married to a woman, she is from a marginalized population. People of color are marginalized. People who are incarcerated are marginalized. People who struggle with mental illness, people who are veterans of war, people who are ill and hospitalized, and even many of us here today who are senior citizens are marginalized. Today we're going to go a little deeper to focus on one of the largest marginalized groups that I haven't even mentioned yet, and that is children. My friend later on in the service, Linda Kaser, is going to be speaking about her fantastic work with children. Children have no power. Most of them don't work, they don't have money, they don't have voting rights, and they don't have independence, and as a result, they are reliant on the adults around them to take care of them. The adults must provide for them and protect them, and most of the time that works out. Some of the times it doesn't. For a variety of reasons, sometimes the kids just have to muddle through and fend for themselves and stay alive until they're old enough to figure out how to take care of themselves. We all know children who have received the short end of the stick. Children who would have had a different life if they had randomly been assigned to a different home or to a different place. Additionally, we are all crucially aware of the issues surrounding immigration in our country, and wherever we land politically, we can all agree it's a terrible situation. Let's open our hearts today to the plight of all children. Let us consider the children.
I want to tell you a story about a girl named Tori. I met her in a home where she was scrubbing dog poo off the floor. She was about 13 or 14. In this home there lived 3 other children. They were 3, 5, and 7, a little girl and 2 boys. The house was neglected. It was my first time going there. It was horrible. The urine smell, not just from the dogs, but from the people. There was clothing piled up in places covered with a sheet with swarms of flies and other insects running around them. There was vermin in the house. The doors couldn't close the whole way, so there were openings so things could come in and out at will. There was abuse in the home, severe alcohol abuse, severe emotional abuse, and we suspected sexual abuse as well. There were also 4 dogs, 3 cats, and a turtle. When I went to visit the home, one of my jobs is to make sure everything's appropriate for the children. I have to look and see where they sleep. Tori slept in a room off the living room with no doors on a urine-soaked mattress. Her little sister, well, they're related somehow. There's multiple fathers involved. Slept upstairs with the parents on another urine-soaked stinky bed. And I saw another bedroom, and I'm like, well, is this where the boys sleep? Oh no, they sleep on the love seat in the chair. Well, who sleeps in that bed? Well, Grandpa does. And I found out Grandpa was on the sex registry for abusing his own daughter that lived in this home. The judge gave us 2 weeks to have Grandpa gone, the animals gone, and the house cleaned up. When we went back to court, none of that happened, and the children were removed. They went into foster homes. We were very lucky they went into one home. Some wonderful, loving family took all 4 children. We go to court, parents sit there with their public defenders, somebody who speaks for them, who says, oh, they didn't mean to do it. Oh, they're cleaning up. Oh, it's really not that bad, and they just need some extra help. When we go to court, no one speaks for the children. No one's there for them. They don't come. They don't have a public defender. They have a Kaser, and that's what I do. A Kaser is a court-appointed special advocate, as you heard on here, and we answer to a GAL, a guardian ad litem. They're the paid people. We give our time. A court-appointed special advocate goes through training in Marion County. I'm with child advocates. Different counties and states have different rules. I went through 36 hours of training. I learned about how the court system works, what I do when I go out to see a home, what the children's rights and privileges are, because they really do have them. They're just really hidden down in the depth. We learned to spot different kinds of abuse and how to write a court report. That's one of my jobs, is to write a court report to give to the judge and say, here's what's going on with these children. I visit children in their homes, whether it's a foster home, whether they're in a home with their parents. They might be in an institution. I worked with a young man for 5 years who initially was in an institution. We observe family visits. Court always makes sure that parents have a chance to visit with their children. There's usually a minimum number of hours a week, and I want to see how are they interacting with each other. Are the parents paying attention to their child? Are they showing more abuse and neglect? Are they engaging their children? How are the siblings interacting? Currently I have a case with 4 children. They live in different foster homes, but they come together for a visit. How's that going? I attend meetings. They're called child and family team meetings, where we bring the parents in and whoever's helping them, their therapists, their case managers, and we talk about goals and how we can work towards reunification and them having their children back. We have total access to children 24/7. I never show up at 3 a.m. Not going to do that. But we have access to their therapists, to their schools, to anybody that they're engaged with, their physicians. We have to know all about the children. We have to know what's going on because we have to meet their needs. They're marginalized, as Nancy said. They're out there on the fringes. We have to help them know that somebody's there for them. So I talked about writing a court report. I tell them what's going on. Is the house they're living in safe, be it foster care or not? What's their therapist talking about? How are they doing with that? How are things going in school? Do we need to have some medical issues addressed for the children? Then we make recommendations. I tell them we need a therapist for this child. They don't have one. We're seeing some unusual behavior in school or at home. We make recommendations if they should stay in their home, their foster home, or if they should get to go home. Should we increase visits? Do we need to decrease visits? There's so many stories out there. I'm sure you've read them in print or on the news. I just read one recently about DCS, Department of Child Services, about the foster care system, how it's broken. It's not perfect. How they take too many children away from their parents. They leave kids in homes that shouldn't be in their homes. And I keep seeing people say, someone should do something. Well, maybe you could be that someone. Maybe you could be the voice of a child.
Civil rights activist Tarana Burke has declared, if we don't center the voices of marginalized people, we're doing the wrong work. Let's do what we can to pull those populations from the margin, those voices from the edges and into the mainstream. Bless the beasts and the children and everyone else who is living in the margins. Let's open our arms, our hearts, and our mouths to speak up for those who don't have a voice. Have a great Sunday.